All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our privacy and marketing content series videos. Today, we're going to be talking about how to be prepared for privacy first marketing. My name is Carlos Ramos. I'm the head of customer success here at Rock Content. Super excited to be with you in this journey. And with me today, I have the lovely Malu. Malu is our strategy and operations lead here at Rock Content. Today, she's going to be joining us and talking a little bit more about this topic in detail.
Right. Well, thank you, Carlos. Thank you first for having me. And I'm super excited to be talking about something that at least once a week, I get into conversations with customers. So I think we can get started. And I think that in conversations with customers, with the whole context on privacy and marketing, the thing that I hear the most while talking about marketing automation and data and privacy is, all right, so what do I do now, right? So how am I going to be able to connect? How am I going to be able to collect data from now on with all of these restrictions and legal issues and such? And I think that the way that it actually drills down is that the question is not how are you going to collect data, but really how are you going to be able to stay relevant to your audience? So I think it was in the previous video, right, Carlos? We were talking a little bit about how first-party data is the most relevant. And what that really means for businesses is that the key word from now on is making sure that you're cool enough and that you're providing value enough that people are going to be willing to actually exchange data with you. And of course, that as with any relationship, trust is gained only over time, right? So that means that I think marketers need to be more and more concerned about generating value, not just once, not just twice, but through an actual relationship. So that doesn't mean just building one nice piece of content. That doesn't mean just building one nice campaign, but staying relevant over time. And I think that requires a lot of patience from marketers. And of course, that it requires us to be thinking more and more about the persona, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I hear this all the time where customers are asking like, okay, so what's that one thing that we're going to build that's going to allow us to overcome this challenge? And it's never a silver bullet. It's really around long-term strategies that build upon each other.
Absolutely. And I get that all the time too. And the answer is really, there's really not one thing that you should be doing. So in addition to having to generate value across different audiences, it also has to do a lot with generating value according to their different buyer journey stages. So I agree with you 100%. And really, the key is making sure that whatever you're developing is actually going to be long-term. And that's actually going to help you acquire the data that you want. And speaking of data, I think that we have a nice statistics, a nice stat that we use here at Rock is that around 31% of marketers say they're faced with the challenge of, I have just too much data to analyze, right? So one thing that I would think that it's very relevant for us to think about when coming up with strategies, data collection strategies is, I think that marketers have gotten greedy, and I include myself in that group over the years. In terms of, well, there's just so much, there's so many things to do, why don't I just gather all the information? And of course that the recent developments in privacy and data make it challenging. So marketers, I think that the big thing is that they need to be, we all need to be a lot smarter about the type of data that we're actually collecting. So a little bit of a framework that we refer to our customers here at Rock when developing these sort of strategies in content marketing is, one, why do you really want this data, right? So is it going to be useful or is it just going to fill your database with a different column, right, about your customers? And the second, how are you actually going to be using that data, right? So I think that I have a funny story about a customer that we've been working for several years. And when we started to dig deeper into their marketing automation, it was HubSpot, if I'm not mistaken, we just noticed that they had over 180 contact properties. And I remember they were B2C actually, and there was just so much data there that they would never ever use. So I think that in the world that we're living right now, you need to be very smart about what is actually going to be useful for you or not. Considering that you're not going to be able to gather everything and that you need to make choices, make sure that you are actually prioritizing data that is actually going to bring value, not just for your business, but for your customer as well. So let's say you're, it's a silly example, but let's say you're just selling shoes online or in e-commerce. Does it really matter if you know what the profession is for your customer? Is that really relevant? So make sure that whatever it is that you're gathering, you can actually use it back to generate more value to your customer. How could that be done? Well, I don't know. We have a couple of e-commerce customers that ask really interesting questions about, I don't know, what kind of situations do they leverage their products, right? Because then we can actually tailor the message, I don't know, in a newsletter or in whatever means of communication to make sure that you're bringing value back to them. So it's, I think that the most important thing here is getting creative as well and coming up with questions and data collection methods that are going to add more value to your business and to your customer.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more, Milo. I think one of the big things here to also keep in mind, right, is when we're asking how are we actually going to leverage this data within the business, that's a really good question to ask yourself because it also guides a lot of the operational sides that go along with it. When you tell me that you've got a customer that has over 180 fields in their contact record, it's insanely common to hear that, right? So when we're collecting this data, it has to be utilized in a way that's going to be leveraged downstream by the business in an effective manner. Is this data that the sales team is going to leverage to have more targeted conversations? If so, having 180 fields is going to make it damn near impossible for that sales rep to be able to actually understand what that behavior means to them. Is this data that's going to be leveraged by marketing automation and will only be read by a machine? If that's the case, we can jam all of that data into one field. And marketing automation, you could run logic that'll actually parse that long string of data, and the machine will know exactly what that means and how to leverage that for lead scoring or nurture campaign paths or things like that. And we don't have to worry about it being something that's legible by a human being. So it's important to think about, how are we going to leverage this data across the entire organization for it to truly be useful so that we can also format it in a way that's digestible by whatever means that the organization wants to leverage that data in.
I agree 100%. And you bring a really interesting point. So here at Rock, we do a lot of workshops with customers when we're thinking about, all right, so let's build valuable content. And the thing that we usually do very early in the process is a workshop between marketing and sales, right? Because more often than not, the information that's being collected by marketing generates little to no value to sales. And what happens even more often is the information that marketing is collected could have easily been figured out by sales with a simple Google search, with a simple LinkedIn search. So instead of course, that you need to, for instance, if you're selling B2B, of course that you need to know the customer, the company the customer is working for. But I don't know, do you really need to ask how many employees does the company have? If that's not going to be relevant to your sales process, is that actually something that you need to understand? Or could you use that single line in your form to ask something that's going to be, I don't know, going to help your sales reps to generate more value in a conversation, right? So I think that bringing marketing and sales closer, I think marketing in general has always been a key. But when we're thinking about making hard choices about what data do we collect that will actually help us both automatize the process, but most importantly, also generate value to sales, is key to the success of any strategy. And I think that speaking of the success of any strategy, we have a couple of examples here about how Rock generates value and collects first-party data, right? And I think that the key and the heart of our strategy has always been coming up with content that's innovative, even in terms of theme, but most importantly in terms of format too, right? So our blog today, our blog is the biggest one in Latin America, really strong contender in North America as well. And essentially, we cover all topics in digital marketing. But every now and then, we gather feedback from our customers and from our readers, and we listen to, hey, maybe that could have been leveraged in a different format, right? So the example that we're showing right now is that we're trying to leverage mini courses. Of course, that we have several ebooks on the topic, we have several videos, and when we have several blog posts, But doing interactive content is about repurposing that content all the time to make sure that the experience provided to your customer is always better. So I think that tip number one is not worrying just about the subject matter, let's say, but also how your audience is going to interact with it, right? What is the best way for your audience to consume that particular piece of content? And then we can make sure that you're not only going to be nurturing that relationship, but also positioning yourself as an authority. So I think just to bring a couple of examples here, Brock. So as we were mentioning, we try to repurpose our content every now and then because we want to make sure that the content is the experience that the user has while consuming it is usually different. So we leverage different landing pages, and of course that depending on the persona, we ask different things, right? And of course, depending on the buyer journey, the stage of the journey they're in, we're also going to ask different things. It's not a matter of collecting the most amount of data, the biggest amount of data you can, but of collecting the data that your sales team is actually going to leverage, right? And while we're also talking about engagement, I think that one of the keys to success, and this is, I think Carlos is going to agree with me, this is one of our customers' favorite thing about our solutions is that gathering data through content also means understanding what your customer values the most, right? So arguably, the most relevant type of interactive content today is perhaps assessment. It's definitely one that our customers have the most success with today. And why is that so relevant? The whole idea behind an assessment is that not only you're providing valuable information to your customer, right? But you actually are able to grasp what really matters to them, right? One of the features that we use a lot in our examples is, if you do this assessment, you're going to see an industry comparison. So, all right, I can actually infer that content, that contact is actually concerned about how they're ranked against their competitors in their industry. So on that sense, the way to most effectively leverage content in your strategy is, again, making sure that you're providing value to your audience, but you're also learning about them in the process. So to provide an example again, assessments are really awesome because in addition to being an interactive piece of content, you're actually able to generate insights that are most likely going to be not only really valuable to your entire marketing automation strategy, but they're going to help your audience, your sales team, actually understand more about the pain points and the things that keep your prospect up at night, right? So definitely, without any question, assessments are the main asset that our customers are using to generate value through content. And of course that this is 100% customizable. And the idea is generating questions and building questions and content in general that are actually going to speak to your audience. So speaking in their language, making sure that you're laying out the challenges and the questions in a way that they can relate to. And at the end of the day, your customers are actually able to receive a consultation and analysis, anything that's actually can generate value to them and show your expertise based on the questions you ask them. So it's a great way to, again, generate value. I know I'm being repetitive here, but it really is the keyword to your audience and to leverage information in your sales process that are hopefully going to help them, help your reps appear more knowledgeable, generate more authority to the prospect, and hopefully reduce the sales cycle as well. So to sum up, I think that the question stops being how to collect data from customers, and it actually transforms into how do I actually generate value to them, right? The only way to win in the cookieless world is staying relevant and being the business and the people really that customers are gonna want to answer information to, right? So I think that would be my number one tip. Thank you for having me today, Carlos. And everyone, thank you for listening to us as well.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Malu. And thanks everyone for listening in on this video series. Question for you all, if you like this format, let us know. If this information was valuable for you, if you prefer a different format, we love to receive this type of feedback. Just make sure to reply to the email that you got with this content. And that's going to help us build even better resources for you in the future. Thanks again, Malu. Thank you so much to our audience for joining us today, and we will see you all next time.